Hi, and welcome to Origin of Concepts. Do you know that, or do you sometimes feel that, when you see a building or some architecture, that where did they get these ideas from? Hmm, I did. And, no matter where you go around the world and look at the architecture, it always have origin from some place. And the more religious or mythical things become, the closer we increase on the same source. And there's no difference in this Islamic building here, the Dome of the Rock, not the rack, of the Dome of the Rock, which is the subject for today's video. So, welcome. The Dome of the Rock and the foundation stone inside the temple or the shrine. The Islamic Dome of the Rock is a part of the Al-Aqsa complex, also known as Haram al-Sharif, located on the Temple Mountain in the occupied East Jerusalem in Palestine. The Dome of the Rock is an octagonal building, a shrine, with a golden dome built on top of a bedrock, the foundation stone, believed by Muslims to be the site of Muhammad's night journey and ascension to heaven, and by Jews as the place where creation began and where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac, his son. The geographical Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, and its foundation stone should never be confused as the places mentioned in the Bible myth or any other Abrahamic textures, because it's all a mirror of the Milky Way cinder. So let's take a look at the Milky Way here. And before I start, no, I'll do it later. The Temple Mountain is not, it's not the mountain in Palestine. It's a mountain in the Milky Way, which is used to the mountain in the Milky Way is used to name the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, not the other way around. It didn't come from the Bible and so on. The Bible got it from somewhere. So let me draw it here. Because here we got the Temple Mount in the Milky Way center. And if you have seen some of my other videos, you will know that this mountain is the same mountain used globally on all the ancient cultures in their mythologies and creation stories. And there's, the Bible is just number 100 in the row, so to speak. Okay, and Jerusalem is a divine city in the divine city in the Bible is of course based on the striped shadow here. So this is a Jerusalem with all its towers and houses and stuff like that. The city on the hill. And then we got the temple. If you look down the corner, it has an octagonal shape. And this octagonal shape comes from the striped shadow. Because the striped shadow here got like 8 primary stripes. And they are, let me see if I can, they are, symbolic, put together as an octagonal shape. And that's basically the octagonal shape used in every divine or, textures you can find. This is the octagon, also used by the, oh, no, not the Jesuits, the, yeah, and not the Knights Templar. I can't remember what they are named, but that doesn't matter for now. Let me find a picture here because I want to, yeah, here it was. Let me try to do it like this. They do it like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The ancients always saw this striped shadow as a crown around the disk in the Milky Way center. And if I connect, this crown here, you got the octagonal shape. So that's the right way to display it. So you always have to imagine the striped shadow as surrounding a city, or a city wall surrounding a city, or a crown surrounding the head, and in this case it's the octagonal base of the temple. Okay, let's move back to the text here. And the golden dome is of course representing the golden dome in the center of the Milky Way, with the light or the spirit, manifested spirit, the red part of the Milky Way emanating from the disk. So here you got the golden dome. And then we got the inside the shrine, we got the foundation stone, which is the striped shadow here. The striped shadow is always the stone in the sky. The black stock, the rock. You have heard that before, the rock, or the black stone, or dark stone, or cornerstone, or foundation stone, and so on and so forth. The reason why it's called a cornerstone is because the stone is placed in the corner of the Milky Way angle here, the pyramid. So that's why it's the cornerstone, because it's in the corner of the Milky Way. Okay, now you know that. And let me see here. Let's go to some key features in Islam to back all this up, and use their own words, so to speak, to back up my claims here. Okay, let's read. Muhammad traveled from Mecca to Jerusalem on a winged creature called a Burak. Okay, it was his nightly journey where he goes from Mecca, of course, and land in Jerusalem, where the foundation stone is in the shrine. And let's start with the Burak, the creature he is flying on, which means shining, or brilliance, or sparkling, which is of course an allegory of the striped shadow here. That's I could also do it like this, because it is the crescent, and it's also the boat, so to speak. And the reason why it is shining is because that in this area of the Milky Way, there's a lot of colored stars, the gems. That's number one. But the main reason is the golden disc light is running down through the striped shadow here. And that's making it shining and brilliant and sparkling. But what about the winged creature? And that's pretty easy. I won't go too much into detail, because the winged creature is all over the world myth. But let me put it up. I'll get a color. Here we got the creature. This could be the head or the tail, and we also got this figure up here. It's also the bull of heaven. And of course, here we got the wing. So here you see the winged creature in the sky. I don't know which creature it is, but normally it's a bull. So, but that doesn't matter. Now we know that's a winged creature named Burak, and it's shining because inside the middle of the creature we got the shining disc running through the striped shadow into the mortal world. Okay. And as I told you before, the striped shadow also represents a boat in many myths. And it's the shining boat, of course. And that was long before the Abrahamic religions existed. Okay, let's move on. When Muhammad arrives in Jerusalem, he is sent to heaven by a 7-step ladder of gold and silver encrusted with pearls. And let's run through that quick, because now he arrived in Jerusalem, here, the city. And then he ascended to heaven. This is heaven. By a 7-step ladder. And it's of course the striped shadow here, with the 7 dark stripes. And I'll make a ladder. So, there's no doubt now. But it's made of gold and silver. And sure it is, because the striped shadow is the silvery crescent here, because it belongs to the silvery part here. The silver shadow representing the female or pure spirit, or the mother goddess, with the female shape. And it's always the silver. And then of course we got the golden part of the ladder, which is of course the golden disc light running in down through the steps. So this was the ladder. And let me see here. Yeah, and then it's also encrusted with pearls. And as I told you before, the pearls are all the colored stars in this area of the Milky Way. And these shining objects is also a reason why the stars in the sky is named stars, but that must be for another video. Okay, so here we got the 7-step ladder of gold and silver encrusted with pearls. During his ascent, Muhammad met various prophets at different levels of heaven. And of course, all the prophets is visualized by the striped shadow here, which is also the levels he has to move through to get into heaven. And this concept is used many other places. You can go to the Anunnaki in the Mesopotamia. They got a similar concept. And then in Egypt, you got the 9 bows. And in Norse mythology, you got the 9 worlds. And, they are all around the world myths, way before Abrahamic religions was created. Okay. And the prophet, the prophets and is the stripes, of course, and it was the levels of the heaven on his journey. Okay, then let's move to the Jewish Christian interpretation of the stone or the shrine and the foundation stone. The shrine protecting the sacred rock, which is believed to be the place where Abraham prepared to sacrifice his son Isaac on an altar upon wood on Mount Moriah. Okay, so let's start over here. Now we are in the Christian and Jewish terms. Mount Moriah is, of course, the big mountain here in the background. And it can also be split up into two. So you got the Zion part and the Moriah part, and it's also the Ararat mountain. It's all the mountains. But in this case, it's the Mount Moriah. And the altar that's built is the... Yeah, let me remove the mountain again. The altar is here. This is the altar in the Milky Way center here. And in the altar you got some fire, the golden disc. And to make fire you also need some wood, the stripe shadow here. You can watch more in my video, my altar video, to get into all the details. Okay, and Abraham prepared to sacrifice his son on an altar of wood. Yeah, of course, and that was the wood, the stripe shadow. And here comes the here comes the secret of what to say, because both the wood here. Oh, let me find the color. The stripe shadow here, or the stripes, is both the wood and the foundation stone. So, and the octagonal shape, you know. So it's all about it's all the same thing, you know, made to one great concept. And to sum it all up, in the textures we can write that behind Abraham is a ram caught in a thicket bush by its thorns, which he offered instead of his son. So, you know, you turn around and see a ram stuck in the bush with its horns, and oh, okay, then I can offer the ram instead of my son. Great idea. And let me draw that for you. This is a Bible section, by the way, but it will just tell everything. Because the ram is, of course, the silvery shadow here. And the ram, I'll make the bush here because that's the stripe shadow. And he's really stuck. You know, the ram horns is also the stripe shadow here. So the horns are pretty much stuck in the bush. And most deities or characters is always got the head of the disc, and their body is, of course, the stripe shadow. So behind Abraham, a ram is stuck with its horn in a bush. Yeah. Okay. So now you have an idea what the architecture of the Dome of the Rock and the foundation stone is. The stone here inside the shrine with the golden dome and the octagonal foundation, or fundament, or entrance. Okay, guys, that's all for now. I'll make much more videos soon, directing into the Islamic symbolism and concepts. But you know, it's like when you got the Abrahamic religions, which is both the Jews and the Christians, and the Islamic, then, it's sometimes just easier just to use the Old Testament, the basic stories. But I think it's important also to know because Islam got a little different way to get into the symbolism, and how they use it. I basically think that Islam is a more clean way to read the text than the Abrahamic, because the Abrahamic and the Jewish way is way too complicated, because it's so literal, and yeah, sorry to say it, but there's a lot of garbage, unnecessary stuff there. It's just repeating and repeating itself, over and over again. And in the Quran, for example, it's very, they have put it in order, so to speak. Well, I'll leave it up to you if you want to read some of all those texts. But now you know the origin of the foundation stone in the Dome of the Rock. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye.